Hey everyone, my name is Tyler Deeb, and I'm a designer and the owner of Miscellaneous Goods Company. Work is so dynamic, you know? Work is something that has always been and always will be, but it's also interesting because all of you and me, we all have like dynamic experiences with work. And what I mean is like, how can work be something that's bad, you know? It's so bad and yet it's so good. We have stories of experiencing euphoria, you know, as we land that dream job or we get that promotion. We felt pride when we've achieved a task that was like beyond us and we didn't know that we could do it. When things are going well, our endorphins ignite, you know, and we have a high that you can't buy, you know, it's just like something that is just special. But we also know there's a flip side, you know, we also have stories of being up late at night, you know, as we wrestle with anxiety and despair. We're losing sleep, you know, and some of us here even today, we don't have jobs and we feel lost, we feel scared. Some of us don't even realize that like the 15 years of our life have gone by and we are asking ourselves like, we've been working so hard for the last 15 years, we've been going from job to job, we've been climbing the ladder, and then we're like, where did our 20s go? You know, where did our 30s go? And where are my friends? You know, you have a hard time like seeing what you've accomplished except for work. We've seen best friends become business partners and then later become venomous rivals. We've seen families crumble because the husband won't take a break from work, or the mother who slowly drifts away from her children because she's taking business trip after business trip. Yes, the way we approach work is very important. It is both inherently good and it is both inherently bad. It is both pragmatic and totally personal. When it's good, beer tastes better. Our laughter is more robust. When it's bad, we're debilitated with anxiety. You know, there is no laughter, there is no joy in life. We feel empty and there's nothing that can fill us up. If these ideas are not relatable to you, then I would like to congratulate you for reaching the 9th level of existential enlightenment. You are one of the few. Because for me, these realities are before me every day. The good and the bad are always within reach. So, this morning, I'm going to be sharing with you all a little bit about my story and how these experiences left me wondering and searching how to be content. And through much vexation, eventually brought me to this idea that I'm sharing with you all today, which is, don't chase the glory, work hard, and be satisfied. I was born in 1983, and I was the youngest of 3 brothers, which meant I didn't have very much responsibility. You know, I mean, I would look to my brothers to help me in pretty much all social environments. You know, when we had family reunions, I would expect them to tell me, you know, who my cousins were, you know, who my aunt was, who my uncle was. Like, I had no idea. And I still go to these family reunions, and sometimes I have no idea. And we'll spend like 20 minutes on the way to the place, and I'll have my brothers kind of cueing me and telling me who's who. I really was just an aloof kid. I really was. And but even as an aloof kid, I started skateboarding. I began collecting comic books, and I started learning how to draw. And as I was doing this, my mom saw me, and she thought these were signs of me becoming an artist, you know? So she started signing me up for art classes and art camps, and she would check in on me periodically and see how I was doing, and then she would really encourage me towards discipline, you know? And, but as she was pushing me, I kept brushing it off, you know? Like, I didn't understand why it annoyed me, but it did. And I think the reason it annoyed me was because there was something I was born with that I would deal with for the rest of my life, and I dealt with then, and that was like, I had a real anti-establishment attitude. I really wanted to be a part of something that was exclusive and untaught. It felt kind of fake if like I was going to these art classes and art camps. And I even, it's hard to admit this, but I even wanted to leverage my interests against other people. I wanted to be set apart. My mom eventually stopped pushing me, and I stopped trying because I had a hard time answering the question, why make art? For what purpose? Wasn't it just for a distraction? Why did I need to get better at this? So I put down art. My mom stopped pushing me, and then I kind of moved on. As I went on to high school, I tried to reinvent myself a lot of different times. I moved away from art and started playing football, and then I joined the row club, and I joined the Russian club. I had friends in theater. I had friends that were from the ghetto. I had hippie friends. I had jock friends. I really was just a leaf blowing around in the wind, not knowing where I was going to land. I was so confused about who I was and who I wanted to be, I even tried my hand out at male cheerleading. Literally tried my hand at it, and I'm not very proud of that moment. I'll leave that up there for a second. Again, in college, I tried to reinvent myself, but it was costing me money, and so I dropped out of college. And I didn't really find myself in creative work again or trying to be a creative until about when I turned 20 and I moved to Oakland, California. I had moved there to be a part of a missionary program that lived and worked in the ghetto of East Oakland. And to be honest, I didn't know what the hell I was doing there. It all had happened so fast. I had dropped out of college. I had moved back to Louisville. I had decided that I did not want to stay in Louisville. And so one day my brother was like, hey man, why don't you try this missionary program? And I was like, it's California, cool. And so I moved to California, and all of a sudden they had dropped me off in front of this apartment complex. And here I was alone with a Tupperware container in front of an apartment complex in one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in America. It was really scary. I felt naked. I felt exposed. No one knew me, and that was really scary. But on the flip side, here's another picture of Oakland, by the way. But on the flip side, that meant that no one knew I wasn't a designer. So all of a sudden, I had this kind of personal freedom to reinvent myself again. But this time, I decided to go into creative work. I was in Oakland for 1 year, and at its core, this was the place where I shed my previous 20 years of aloofness and wonderings. I had a coming-of-age experience. My apathy for life dissolved away at the same time that I was becoming so excited about so many new things. I had a renewed faith in God. I had branded myself as a creative. I had met a girl that later would become my wife, and the reason that I knew that I could love this girl is because she told me that I had nice feet, which was a complete lie. They're awful feet, but she was very sweet to me. And she would later become the mother of our 4 children. But at the core of it, like I was saying, Oakland was a place where I found a lot of direction. Afterwards, I moved back to Louisville. I began working 2 different jobs. I would work during the day at a place in Louisville called Monkey Drive Screen Printing, and I would work at night on design. So my day work would be for, cash. So I would just work in, day out, and work really hard for cash. But my night job was for street cred. And that's where I really tried to, is that moving? Yeah, good. I was hoping that was moving because it's not moving on me. So my night work was just about me getting the attention, moving in a direction creatively that I wanted. And I probably looked like this kid because I wasn't very good. But I started designing posters and band posters and all different types of stuff like that. I was working 70 hours a week, but I was making less than $10,000 a year. I wouldn't have been able to say this at the time, but I wasn't really working for money. I was working for control. I was working for my image. I was working for approval. And that ended up becoming very toxic for me because it's kind of like an endless well. It wasn't until 2010 that my carefully guided design career, all these things, these disciplines I was creating for myself to make myself better and important, it got disturbed in 2010. My wife was pregnant with our first son, and we simply did not make enough money. $10,000 a year was not going to cut it. And 2 months before our son was born, I received a call from the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary. And they ended up offering me a job with a good salary and health insurance. I had to take it. Noelle was about to have the baby, and we didn't have health insurance, and all of a sudden we did, and she could have the baby where she wanted it. And this should have been really exciting. I should have been really pumped up for this, but I wasn't excited. I was actually in despair. I had always prided myself on three things as a designer: that my clients were cool, that I didn't have to be corporate, and that I was in creative control. I knew if I worked at Southern, then my creative life would radically change. But I was left with no choice. What was I going to do? Deny my wife this opportunity? So it was almost like that structure that I told you my mom was trying to put me under, like to discipline my creativity in a certain way, was finally being thrust upon me 15 years later. So I showed up to work for my first day, and my new coworkers were very nice and very kind and very welcoming. But even so, it didn't turn my head away from my perceived creative decline. After work, I would take long walks in Cherokee Park with my wife and my newborn son, and I would lament my life. I was in Cherokee Park with my wife and my son, and I was thinking, woe is me. It was almost like every good thing in my life was mixed with a bitter drink. Day by day, for 8 months, my head was being lowered more and more. I couldn't get away from my hopelessness. Eventually, I had to confront myself. I had to ask a very obvious question. If my wife loves me, if my son is healthy, and if I have friends who care for me, then why can't I be happy? Why do I need work to be anything more than a source of income? This was the question that brought me to the core of my distress. I came to realize that work had never been about a paycheck. Not really. My work had always been about my identity. It was about how you all here saw me. And so, it was also about the way that I gained leverage over you, how I became more important than you. I know, dark, twisted, narcissistic, this guy. But really, am I the only one that acts this way? Is this behavior exclusive to me? Or is this a human problem? This foolishness I was believing and how I was behaving really became most poignant when I was reading the book of Ecclesiastes King Solomon wrote. And he wrote this: vanity of vanities, all is vanity. What does man gain by all the toil at which he toils under the sun? A generation goes and a generation comes, but the earth remains forever. The wind blows to the south and it goes around to the north, and around goes the wind. All streams run to the sea, but the sea is not full. All things are full of weariness, and man cannot utter it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. These words really struck me. What was I chasing? And for what purpose? Was I chasing glory? Was I chasing wealth? Was I chasing status? Was it vanity? What was I after? Even if I became wildly successful, like Steve Jobs successful, how long would it last? Wouldn't it all just fade away eventually? Was all the anxiousness that I was putting myself through and all the worry, was it worth it? I started reflecting on the reality that there are past generations of designers. So there's designers for as long as we know historically, in some form. And they were like me, and they devoted their whole lives to their work, pouring out to it, losing sleep. But where are those people now? They're totally forgotten. Where are we 100 years from now? Forgotten. Did I actually think that I could achieve more than these talented people? Did I think I could do more? And the truth is that yes, I did think I could. I was chasing after the wind. The type of glory I was after was an illusion. You can't ever grab it. And if you think you have, you certainly can't hold on to it. So, where do I go from there? I began loosening my grip, and I stopped trying to control everything about my career. I let go, and I showed up to work, and I worked hard. As a result, I actually began to like my time at Southern. I had less to prove, and I didn't need to pretend that anyone was beneath me, and so I could enjoy myself. I could laugh with my coworkers. I also was able to see that there was so much opportunity from working at Southern. Remember, I dropped out of college. I had no formal education in design, so I didn't know very much at all. I had a creative eye, and that's about it. Southern was giving me an opportunity to teach myself a multitude of new skills, and I hadn't recognized that before. I didn't see what kind of opportunity this is. I'm getting paid to learn new things. So, Southern made me responsible for completely redesigning, booklets and magazines, which meant I had to learn type forms and paragraph styles. I had to create identity systems, which meant I had to design logos and corresponding print material. I had to learn how to illustrate and lay out books, and I had to learn how to work with printers and set up files for production. I had to learn how to art direct and lead people. I had to learn how to present concepts to, my bosses. I was very busy. I was getting a college education, really, but I was getting paid for it. And the irony was that I was becoming such a better designer at the same time that my preoccupation with being seen as a better designer was declining. So I was getting better as I was saying, it doesn't matter if I'm better. I was learning new things and I was getting paid to do it. But I wasn't the only one benefiting from this new kind of renewal. My bosses, my coworkers, they were benefiting too, because the work I was doing made their jobs easier, and vice versa. Working, and this is an important point, working hard isn't just about feeling good about yourself. It's about honoring the people that are depending on you, honoring the people around you. We've all tasted the pure goodness of work. It doesn't matter if you're stacking a pile of wood or you're making a good latte. Hard work feels inherently good. The problem is that our egos eventually strip the experience of its joy. We start asking ourselves, who is watching? Who is liking it? Or is it good enough? As if every expression that we make needs to be affirmed by the world. You don't have to prove yourself to the world. You don't have to listen to the mindless jargon on the internet. You don't have to make something amazing today. You don't have to hustle yourself into oblivion. Just show up to work. And when you're going to show up, and when people are depending on you, come through for them. Take care of those people. Whether it's your boss or your client, whether it's your family or your friends, just be trustworthy. Now, I think it's important to say, after this triumphant transition emotionally, it wasn't all roses and unicorns from that point on. I still had times where I butted heads with my boss, or I had to make changes to my work that I didn't like. I still had creative blocks. I still had stressful deadlines. So even though it had lessened, there was still drama in my life around work, which leads us to the next part of my talk. And this is kind of like, okay, don't chase the glory, understand, work hard, okay? Be satisfied. And with the subtext of put work down. Like the topic of work, satisfaction is an elusive idea. Who is more satisfied, the small town farmer or Donald Trump? Is the rich man happier? Does he escape suffering? Does his $70 steak taste better than the poor man's baked beans? Yes. Okay. Yes. Yes, of course. The steak tastes better than beans, but what I'm getting at is he more satisfied? Is there a difference between something being good and you allowing yourself to be satisfied? Based on what I've observed, the answer isn't yes and the answer isn't no either. Satisfaction is as much a discipline of your mind as it is the reaction of your circumstance. I'll say that again. Satisfaction is as much a discipline of your mind as it is the reaction of your circumstance. I believe that being satisfied is as available to those born with talents and benefits as it is to someone that's born with nothing. I mean, there are a lot of successful people, a lot. I mean, we live in America. There are a lot of successful people out there. And they will never be happier than some poor people. And there are poor people out there who will never be satisfied even if they became rich and successful. So it's not a rich or poor thing, it's a you thing. No, satisfaction is a discipline that you have to teach yourself daily. You have to put your work down with a clear conscience and know it doesn't define you. You have to hang your hat on the idea that you tried to be selfless in your work and you worked very hard while you were doing that. And if people don't like it, that is okay. Because you can only do so much with what you have, and your identity doesn't come from their approval. Your work will be forgotten, they will be forgotten, and you will be forgotten. Which leads us to the so what of the talk. Why should you listen to me, and why do I get to have an opinion about your work? First off, you do not have to listen to me or my personal jargon. My ideas are as much of a progress as yours. So these are just ideas that I'm thinking through. So please use your own head. Consider this more of a conversation starter than like a to-do list. But my heart is for you all because I've been in those despairing moments and I hear my friends talking about them, and I travel to New York and I meet up with some of my designer friends there, and they're telling me, New York's not. If you want to see people suffering through work, that's the place. And in my heart, it's sad for them because I've been able to taste things that they're not tasting. So the first part of the so what is that you guys take comfort for wherever you are right now and just be content. So that's the first so what. The second is to let you guys know that the pressure is totally off now. If your work doesn't define you, then you can go dream bigger and fail, and it's okay. Because if your work fails, it doesn't mean that you fail. That has been really important to me as I've started my own business. For me, I truly believe that. If I had never let go of my pride and my vanity towards work, my whole life now, under the pressures that I face today, which are a lot, I would be in disarray. To fill you in what I mean, I need to catch you guys up on my story. So where I left you off was at Southern. So I eventually left Southern and began running just a design company. So not miscellaneous goods, just a design company. One day I came into work, and if you guys are freelancers, some days you have work, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you go long periods without work, sometimes you go long periods with work. And one day I showed up to work and I didn't have any work. So as a design discipline, I started designing a single deck of playing cards, the Jack of Spades. And then I went on the next day and designed the Queen of Spades. And then I went and did this for 3 months until I had designed an entire deck of playing cards. The problem was I had no money. So I had a wife and 2 kids at home at the time, and I was flat broke. In an attempt to scrape some money together for all the work I had done, I released a Kickstarter. I released a Kickstarter for $6,000. And after a 30-day campaign, the project had raised $146,000. I had made $146,000. I was shocked. I had been pushing away this desire to be noticed and be glorified for so long that when all of a sudden all this glory and this set apartness was put on me, I was speechless. It was too heavy to carry. But it wasn't just the stress of getting glory, it was also the insane amount of work I had to do. I had to figure out how to organize and ship 4,000 orders. The margins of failure felt infinite. The pressure of performance was more than I could bear. But instead of losing sleep, instead of wondering what everyone was thinking about me, or instead of drifting away emotionally from my wife and my kids, I remembered that my life was more than my work. I disciplined myself to show up every day and work as hard as I could for 8 hours, and then I would leave. I would go home, I'd go to the park with my family, I'd go grab beers with friends. I forced myself to take care of the other important things in my life. At the end of fulfillment, we had the expectation. We had met the expectations of our customers. I had finally arrived to the beginning of what I had always wanted. in my career. I was working for myself. I owned a company. People liked it. I was removed from corporate culture, and I alone was in creative control. And so, without even trying, I kind of gotten to that point. And then since the Kickstarter, I have released several more products. I designed a ceramic flask. I designed a wallet. I designed a kitchen utility system. And I continue to use the success of Kickstarter to free me up to take more risks. My business was making money, and it was awesome. But my business was also losing money. So every day my business was making money, and every day my business was losing money. And that kind of stress can really tear at you. I was managing emails full of praise, and I was reading emails full of anger. I had high highs and low lows. And so that's why I believe that I have some experience that can help you all. And that is, I felt a lot of stress, and these lessons have been very true to me. So I believe that no matter how successful you become, or how successful I become, when my insecurity is the motivation of my work, I will never be satisfied. If I believe that my newest success will be my safe haven, and it later reveals itself as a carrot on a stick, I will be depressed. So I would encourage you all to take the time to consider the other dimensions of your life. Consider new ways in which you can love those around you, of how you can put work down and encourage those in need, taking every opportunity to work hard, but at the same time be ready to put work down, finding pleasure in the simple things of life. My name is Tyler Deeb. I'm the owner of Miscellaneous Goods Company, and I believe that our best work will come from accepting the reality that it's all dust in the end. So, don't chase the glory, work hard, and be satisfied. Thank you.